All right, all right, all right, all right. Let's see. All right, everyone. Welcome to tonight's um, petition party. As many of you know, my name is Andre Davis. I am running for mayor of Washington, D.C., and we are upcoming on a very important deadline in regards to our campaign, or most people's campaign, which is to petitions to nominate to get onto the ballot. So, if people are not familiar with the petitions to nominate, these petitions are essentially signatures from registered district voters, DC voters, within the same party as your declaration or affiliation. And these particular signatures are the access, or how you would access to have your name printed on the ballot for the primary election, or for any election in this particular matter. So I am doing these petition parties to get people to sign up, or sign my petition online, which I have electronically put it up onto my webpage, where you can input your information the same way that you would input the information or write that information if you saw me on the street. Many of you have seen me on the streets in regards to Eastern Market, U Street, Columbia Heights. Some people have seen me on Good Hope Road, Alabama Avenue. You've seen me all over. And in this particular case, this is no different. This is just electronically. So this is not um, you signing this petition is not a declaration of support. It is not a declaration of a vote or intended to be a vote. It is specifically just to nominate, to put my name onto the ballot. Some people um, are concerned about the electronic aspect of it, but I assure you that your signatures and information is safe, it's secure, it is encrypted, it is locked up, so no one can access that particular information. Um, so, with that being said, we'll go into some of the questions that I have received in regards to my campaign, because I know many of you have not um, come to some of my online gatherings or Zoom meetings. Many of you saw the Ward 7 um, mayoral candidate forum on March 5th, that last Saturday, which I think I like to say that I held my own to present some of my platform in regards to what's going on, not just in Ward 7, but across the city. I think we've come to a time now in the city where we need new leadership. This is not an if, ands, or buts, and I think this is a state of an emergency. Many people ask me all the time, why did I choose to run for mayor versus something, another position, or another political position per se? And my answer is very simple. Um, I'm a native Washingtonian, a fourth generation native Washingtonian, born and raised in Capitol Hill, and I'm a product of the legislation that the current administration has produced. We've had a mayor who has been in office for 8 years, and we've seen the direction that she has taken the city. We've seen the direction that she's allowed for certain agencies to take in regards to the city and how they function and how efficient they are. We have a career politician who has been on the at-large seat for, I believe, 2 terms now, which would be 6 years, because he's halfway between um, well, both of them are halfway between their second terms. So we have people who are in power now who do not legislate on behalf of the entire city, when that's specifically what their job is. Um, Now, me, I am an educator by trade, an educator by nature. I came into the classroom and I started teaching at this District of Columbia Public Schools at the mere age of 20 years old. And at that age, I was blessed and afforded the opportunity to see the inner workings of the system in regards to building our next generation of citizens. I was privileged to see a lot of the mishaps and a lot of the nuances that negatively affect our youth. And I want to get into that because at the Democrats Ward 7 Democrats mayoral candidate forum, I was not necessarily allowed to present my stance on crime. I was skipped on that question. That was the first question. So my position on crime is essentially we see people pointing fingers at the youth. We see people trying to um, create these nuances where you have harsher sentences or punishments for our youth because of the crimes that they are committing. And by no way, shape, or form am I a proponent of, giving people a slap on the wrist. But I do believe that a lot of the issues and positions that our youth have been placed in are not by choice. These are by design. I used this example when I was out petitioning at Eastern Market on Saturday, and I spoke to a ton of residents who were in support of what I was saying. The district has a very notorious track record for closing schools that are either um, not up to building code, no longer have a population within its reach, or someone is saying we can get a lot of money for this building. And I used that particular example when I was at Eastern Market because the typical person that comes to Eastern Market Day, most of them are from the neighborhood, most of them are tourists because of the locale and the distance from the capital and a ton of the hotels downtown. And it's essentially the heart of Capitol Hill. But one thing that I noticed when I was speaking to people is they had no idea that the condos that you have behind Eastern Market, which has the Sephora, the Chase Bank, the Trader Joe's, and I believe a couple of other stores and a parking garage underneath. People have no idea that that used to be Hine Junior High School, and that they closed Hine Junior High School, which was one of the largest um, junior high middle schools in the city at the time, and they closed it, and they essentially moved all of the students that would have gone to that school. They essentially pushed their boundary to the new Elliott Hine Middle School, which is just a combination of Elliott Middle School and Hine Junior High School. So a lot of people don't know that, they knocked down an entire school just to put condos that people cannot afford. And we talk about this all the time because it really bothers me as an educator. It bothers me to see people who know that they've destroyed or dismantled an entire school building only to build condos, but yet they have not invested in the youth. They have not invested in programs that give the youth opportunities. And we cannot continue to wait every year for the Marionberry Summer Youth Program to provide our students or our youth with income opportunities. We cannot continue to wait until the summer to give our students programs and resources that allow them to foster their creativity, their creative sense, their business or professional sense, or just simply just their come into their own or come into their age. We can't afford to continue to wait until the summertime in order to give them those opportunities. And we see under the current administration that there are more schools closing. I can name five right now. You have the Lovejoy School, which closed. You have the Pierce School, which closed. You have the Bryant School, which closed. You have the Hine Junior High School that closed. You have the Bruce Monroe campus that was decimated and knocked down, and they pushed everyone to Harriet Tubman or even Park View. You have so many of these schools, and that's just five schools, but you have more than that of these schools that are now closed. They've been destroyed, replaced with condos, or they're currently in a battle amongst the charter schools as to who's going to get this building. Now, I say all of this to say that it's all fine and dandy that people are oftentimes looking for a way out in order to in order to find someone that's going to replace the current administration, and that works well. But we have to make sure that we have a comprehensive plan in regards to not only our youth, but for the adults, for the senior citizens, for our middle class citizens, for our lower income citizens, and for our wealthy or more affluent citizens. We cannot continue to sit around and wait for the next person to come in and do these things. I believe that we have to collectively organize. We have to make sure that we are pushing our public officials um, to the utmost accountability standards that we can hold them to. And I say all of this to say that we need a change, and we need a change now. Now, my platform is a seven pillar platform, and many people do not understand what I say when there's a seven pillar platform. But essentially, when you see buildings and you see like the Parthenon or any of these Greek buildings that have a more Greco or Roman architecture, you see that they have pillars, and those pillars hold up the roof. Without one of those pillars, you have an uneven weight or distribution of force, which essentially has that house or that structure crash. Now, my seven pillar platform is exactly the same. For far too long, we've ignored one of those seven pillars, and we've placed ourselves in an uneven burden or force that's coming down on the city right now. Now, we've neglected the education system, and we've closed buildings. We have pushed mayoral control to its limits, and we see how detrimental mayoral control can be to the education system. I have said on numerous occasions that I am a proponent of relinquishing mayoral control. I do not believe that one particular person should have autonomy over the school district. I honestly believe that in 2007, when previous Mayor Adrian Fenty established mayoral control under the direction or the votes of the council, I believe that our school district would have gotten better with technological advances. Now, when you go into a classroom, we have MacBooks, we have Chromebooks, we have iReady, we have Eureka, we have Discovery Education, we have Zern, we have multiple platforms that push students to learn their content in an alternative manner. Because let's just face it, every student is not going to adapt to one modality of learning. And I think that's critical because it pushes my next point in education, which is we need vocational schools or vocational programs to return to the city. We need, you know, schools like Phelps. We need schools like Spingarn. We need programs like, Peterbilt Shoe Program. We need programs where students are learning to build cars or learning to do electric work or, continuing to build, HVAC systems. Or we need the promises that we were promised when they built the streetcar in regards to using it as a transportation hub and allowing vocational skills to be pushed into the streetcar barn, which is located at the steps of Spingarn, the old Spingarn High School. So I say all of that to say we are in a dire strait. When we look at the economic growth, we continuously see that we have officials or public officials, elected officials who are not paying attention to what science says. They're not paying attention to what the data is saying in regards to our COVID-19 pandemic. We are not out of this yet. We are not finished with this pandemic in no way, shape, or form. And with new variants popping up as we speak, to do certain things that jeopardize the health of residents shows a lack of concern for residents. And that should not be allowed in any administration for any public official. So we look at those things like dropping the mask mandate in schools, and we have students who are unable to be vaccinated. We have teachers or educators or students or staff members who may have medical conditions in which they are not able to be vaccinated. And although that is rare, it still is something to consider when you are a public official. Um, I do not condemn um, anyone for their choices in regards to how they carry things because I believe that everyone should have a choice. But there are certain things that we cannot allow to continue without some type of accountability or system of accountability to check and balance these particular decisions. In regards to public safety, I am a proponent of making sure that we re-image our current approach to public safety and make sure that we are keeping people accountable, keeping our officers safe, accountable, and up to code in regards to how they interact with the public. Not everyone is going to accept heightened police presence, and that's okay. Given the history of this country, given the history of this city, there's some skepticism that should be presented or should be looked into in regards to various residents in various neighborhoods across the city. One thing that I do not believe that is being championed for is the fact that this city has a very wide spectrum. You have residents in this city who are unable to get jobs. They are unable to purchase homes. They are unable to make a livable wage. And then you have on the other end of the spectrum, you have residents who are very capable of earning income and generating wealth. You have residents who are very capable of, purchasing homes. You have residents who live in more affluent neighborhoods because they can afford to. And I think that we're missing the mark in regards to bridging this gap. And this gap is a social economic gap. And with the social economic gap, there are a lack of programs that we have invested in. For example, we have not invested in mental health programs. We have a large population of residents in the city that are in need of mental health and behavioral health resources, and we do not have a strong support system for them. We have the behavioral health systems where people are essentially assigned to core service agencies, and these core service agencies are oftentimes not the best core service agencies. Sometimes these core service agencies are not performing up to standards, and we don't have the certain measures to check and make sure that the accountability is being upheld. And we have a lot of our residents who seek these particular resources, but they're not enough. They're not being provided in a consistent manner. And this is where we get back to we have a large population of our unhoused residents. We have a large population of our underhoused residents who are in need of resources. And once again, we have an administration who will do anything to push them out of the encampments or what they call tent cities. We have an administration who does not full heartedly support our underhoused and unhoused residents. In fact, part of the reason some of these residents and some of our residents are underhoused or unhoused is because we continuously close public housing tenements like the Berry Farms community. We close the Park Morton community. We close a lot of these areas where you're displacing hundreds of families and hundreds of people at a time. You have developers consistently trying to purchase properties or segue into these procurement deals where they're getting these properties for pennies on the dollar, and then they're building something and promising, yes, we're going to afford, 20% of our units are going to be for, affordable income or affordable housing or for, affordable dwelling units. And what happens is there's a lack of accountability in regards to how those units are marketed, how those units are communicated to the public. And for that particular part, no one's holding these developers accountable, because if these units do not sell, they eventually go back into into the general pop, and they go for market rate. Now, we have the power in this city to house every resident. We have the power in this city to house every particular resident. And unfortunately, we choose not to do so. There's a ton of different things that have popped up in the past that has made everything in particular difficult for residents to sustain their daily life here. We go to Ward 7 and Ward 8, where you have large food deserts, where they're just now getting a grocery store. They're just now getting Starbucks. They're just now getting these particular communities, apartment communities. However, we know based on data that the average family over in that particular ward does not has a larger family than can accommodate or can be accommodated from a 1 bedroom apartment or 2 bedroom apartment. And they're not making 3 bedrooms, they're not building 3 bedroom apartments consistently. So we're faced with the issue of being underhoused. People are now, if they're allowed to get back in there, or they're, privileged enough to get back into a building after it's been remodeled or redone or rebuilt or reconstructed, they oftentimes don't have the space to house their family. And that becomes a difficult task because it goes back into, now, why is this family even needing the assistance? Because they're not making the amount of money that they need in order to sustain that family. With the minimum wage going up, it did provide a sense of leveling the playing field, but it's simply not enough, and we need to do more. So anyone who is in any particular position to advocate for change or they're looking for change, I implore you to sign my petition right here at the bottom. And the petition is simply to nominate me to be on the ballot for the June Democratic primary that occurs on June 21st, 2022. You can head to my website, www.andrefordc.com/petition, and you can sign my petition right from your phone, right from your computer if need be. You can also spread that petition and have people go to my particular website where I am the person who is providing them with the petition. Once again, thank you so much for taking the time out to listen to me. We will have another petition party tomorrow at 8 o'clock. We will have one every day this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. to get people to sign my petition to nominate me for mayor of Washington, D.C. And once again, the disclaimer: this signing of the petition does not constitute as a vote for me. It does not constitute as a contract in any way, shape, or form. It is simply just to nominate me to get on the ballot. I think that everyone should be afforded the opportunity to be on the ballot. I think that in the sense of democracy, that everyone should be afforded the opportunity to get on the ballot, to present their platform, to build their constituency, and advocate for change based on their campaign. And I am no different. I've signed many of my competitors. Petitions. Just being out in the street at Eastern Market and U Street and Adams Morgan and being all over Columbia Heights and other places. I've signed many of the at-large council members, chairmen, mayoral petitions to get on the ballot. So I think that in the spirit of democracy, that's how we all should look at it. At the end of the day, we are all in this for change. We are all in this for, making the district a better place for everyone and not just small constituencies. At that particular point, I think that that's when we will truly see a change, is when we have more than one person advocating for all of our residents and not just a specific community. So on that note, I want to say thank you for listening. Once again, you can sign my petition and to nominate and spread the word, and you can sign it at www.andrefordc.com/petition. If you are inclined to donate, we gratefully appreciate all donations. No amount is too small. And once again, you can head over to my website, andrefordc.com, and you can find where you can donate. Thank you so much, and you all have a blessed night.